You were built for more. Stop living small. Listen, not everyone will understand this message, because this message is not for people who are comfortable. It is not for people who are satisfied with average. It is not for people who have accepted a good enough as their life. This message is for the one who feels something inside them, a pressure, a pull, a quiet frustration they can't explain. Because deep down, you already know you were built for more, not for survival, not for limitation, not for a small repeated life that never changes. You were built for expansion, for growth, for impact, for something bigger than your current situation. But listen carefully, most people never step into that life, not because they can't, but because they refuse to stop living small. They shrink their dreams, they shrink their efforts, they shrink their expectations, and slowly they shrink their entire life, and then they call it reality. But I need you to hear this clearly. That is not your destiny. That is your decision. Because no one is born small in purpose. People become small in thinking. And today we are going to break that thinking, not with motivation, not with temporary emotion, but with truth. 1, you are not stuck. You are conditioned. Listen, what you call a stuck is often repetition. You wake up the same. You think the same. You act the same. You act the same. You choose the same. And because it has been repeated long enough, it feels like identity. But it is not identity. It is conditioning. And anything that is conditioned can be changed. Comfort is the silent killer of potential. Comfort does not destroy you suddenly. It destroys you slowly, quietly, without warning. It convinces you to delay, to relax, to settle, to start tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. Next month becomes years. And suddenly you are not where you dreamed of being. You are where comfort placed you. 3, you were not designed for repetition. You were designed for growth. Listen carefully. Life is not meant to be a loop. It is meant to be a climb. If every year looks the same, something is wrong. Not with your circumstances, but with your direction. Because growth demands change, discipline demands movement, and progress demands discomfort. 4, small thinking creates small living. Let this sink in. Your life will never outgrow your mindset. If your thinking is small, your decisions will be small. If your decisions are small, your life will be small. Not because you lack ability, but because you lack expansion. You have trained yourself to think inside limits, and limits become walls. 5, you are one decision away from expansion. Everything changes with one decision. Not 10, not perfect timing, not ideal conditions. One decision to stop living the same way. One decision to stop tolerating your own excuses. One decision to step into discomfort on purpose. And that decision creates momentum, and momentum creates a new identity. 6, your environment is not your destiny. Listen, your surroundings can influence you, but they cannot define you. You are not your background. You are not your situation. You are not your current level. But if you stay there too long, you start believing you are. And that belief becomes limitation. 7, pain is not punishment. It is pressure for growth. Most people avoid pain, but growth lives inside it. Pressure builds strength. Discomfort builds discipline. Struggle builds clarity. Struggle builds clarity. So every challenge you face is not stopping you. It is shaping you, but only if you don't quit. 8, you must stop asking for permission to grow. You don't need approval to become better. You don't need validation to change. You don't need agreement to rise. You only need decision, because the world will not hand you your potential. You must claim it. You must claim it. 9, the longer you stay small, the harder it becomes to grow. This is truth. Small living becomes familiar, and familiarity becomes identity, and identity becomes resistance to change. So the longer you wait, the harder it feels to leave. That is why now matters. Not later, now. Teen, you were built for more, but more requires movement. More does not come to comfort. More does not come to hesitation. More does not come to fear. More comes to movement, to discipline, to courage, to consistency. And if you want more, you must become more. Listen, This is not about motivation. This is about recognition. You already feel it inside you that you are not meant to stay here, that your life is supposed to expand, that something greater is waiting, but waiting is not enough. At some point, you must move, not emotionally, not temporarily, decisively, because the truth is simple. You were built for more, but you will only become it if you stop living small. Listen, now we go deeper, because understanding you were built for more is not enough. Most people already feel it. Most people already feel it. Most people already know it. But very few people live it, because knowing is easy, but becoming is a decision you repeat every single day. So let's continue. 11. Your life is shaped in the moments no one sees. Let me tell you something real. Your future is not built in public. It is built in private. Built in private. What you do when nobody is watching decides everything. The discipline you ignore, the excuses you allow, the habits you repeat. That is where your life is being created. Not in big moments, but in small invisible choices. And those choices become your reality. Listen, you cannot outgrow your daily habits. You will never become greater than what you do daily. If your habits are small, your life will stay small. If your discipline is weak, your results will be weak. Not because you are incapable, but because you are inconsistent. An inconsistency destroys potential faster than failure ever will. 13. You must stop waiting to feel ready. Listen carefully. Ready is a lie. Nobody feels ready for change. Nobody feels ready for discomfort. Nobody feels ready for struggle. But people who grow move anyway. They act before confidence arrives. They build while fear is still present. They move while doubt is still loud. Because readiness is not a feeling. It is a result of action. 14. You are training your future with every choice you make. Every decision is training something inside you. When you delay, you train procrastination. When you quit, you train weakness. When you stay consistent, you train discipline. So ask yourself, what are you training right now? Because your future self is being built by your current behavior. 15. Discipline is choosing your future over your feelings. Let this settle in. Feelings are temporary, but results are permanent. Some days you will feel strong. Some days you will feel nothing. Some days you will feel like giving up. But discipline says, I do it anyway. That is the difference between average and extraordinary. 16. You must break your comfort cycle. Comfort is not peace. Comfort is limitation disguised as safety. It tells you to relax when you should rise. It tells you to wait when you should move. It tells you to stay where you are because it feels familiar. But familiar is not growth. You are building identity with every repetition. Every action you repeat is shaping who you are becoming. Not what you say, not what you plan, but what you repeat. If you repeat delay, you become someone who delays. If you repeat discipline, you become someone who is disciplined. So your habits are not small. They are identity builders. 26. You must outgrow the need for easy paths. Easy paths always exist, but they rarely lead anywhere meaningful. Easy keeps you comfortable. Comfort keeps you stuck. Stuck keeps you small. Whoa! And small living feels safe, but costs you everything you are capable of becoming. So you must choose harder paths, not because they feel good, but because they lead somewhere greater. 27. Your environment will always try to pull you back. Let's be real. Your surroundings influence you more than you think. Old habits, old people, old thinking, old routines. They will try to bring you back. Not always directly, but subtly, quietly, consistently. And if you are not aware, you will drift backwards without noticing. 28. You must become intentional with everything. Nothing can be random anymore. Not your time, not your focus, not your energy, not your attention. Because randomness creates chaos, and chaos destroys progress. So you must become intentional with what you do, with who you allow, with what you repeat. 29. Your standards decide your direction. You don't go where you want. You go where your standards allow you to go. If your standard is low, your life stays low. Your life stays low. If your standard is high, your life rises. And raising your standards is not about motivation. It is about refusal. Refusing excuses, refusing laziness, refusing inconsistency. 30. You are not behind. You are deciding slowly. Listen. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are deciding every day through small choices, through repeated behavior, through silent patterns, and those decisions are shaping your entire future. So the question is not, "Oh, why am I here?" A question is, "Oh, what am I choosing every day that keeps me here?" 31. You must become someone who doesn't negotiate with growth. No more debates with yourself. No more emotional arguments. No more delaying progress. Growth is not negotiable anymore. You either move or you stay the same. You either rise or repeat. There is no in between. Listen, this is where change becomes real. Not when you understand it, but when you stop resisting it. Because the moment you stop negotiating with your potential, you start living it. And that is when everything shifts. Slowly, then permanently. Because now you are no longer just aware. You are committed. And commitment is what turns potential into reality. Listen, now we go into the part where excuses lose power completely. Because at this level, you are no longer just aware of change, you are responsible for it. And responsibility removes escape routes. 32. You cannot blame your way into a better life. Let's be honest. Blame feels easy. It protects your ego, it shifts responsibility, it makes you feel not at fault. But listen carefully. Blame never builds anything. Not discipline. No. Not success, not growth. It only keeps you stuck in the same place with a different story. And stories do not change your life. Actions do. 33. You must stop waiting for perfect conditions. Perfect conditions do not exist. They never have. They never will. If you wait for perfect timing, you will wait forever. Because life does not organize itself for your comfort. It moves forward regardless of your readiness. No return to old habits. No return to old thinking. No return to old patterns. Because every return delays your growth. So you draw the line, once and for all. 45. You must become someone who finishes what they begin. This is where identity locks in. Not someone who starts. Not someone who tries, but someone who finishes, because finishing creates evidence, creates belief. Belief creates identity, and identity creates everything else. Listen, this is the moment where everything becomes serious. The moment where everything becomes serious. Because now you understand it was never about talent. It was never about timing. It was never about luck. It was always about decisions, repeated, daily, unbroken. And if you choose differently from here, your life has no choice but to follow, because consistency always wins. Every time, without exception. Listen, this is the final moment of everything we've been building. Not the end of motivation, not the end of inspiration, the end of excuses. Because now you understand something most people never fully accept. Your life is not controlled by luck. It is controlled by repetition, by decisions, by discipline. And what you repeat becomes who you are. So let's close this properly. 61. You are no longer allowed to ignore what you already know at this point. You are not confused anymore. You are aware. You know what needs to change. So, you know what needs to stop. You know what needs discipline. So the question is not knowledge anymore. The question is obedience. Will you act on what you already know, or will you delay it again? Because delay is also a decision, and every delay has a cost. 62. You must stop emotionally escaping your responsibilities. Listen carefully. Avoidance feels comfortable in the moment, but it destroys long-term progress. Every time you avoid responsibility, you weaken discipline. Every time you face it, you strengthen identity. So the real battle is not outside of you. It is within you. Comfort and growth, between delay and discipline, between who you are and who you are becoming. 63. You are already living the consequences of past decisions. This is the truth most people avoid. Your current life is not random. It is a reflection of past habits, past discipline, past choices. And that means something powerful. If your past created this, your present can create something different. But only if you change what you repeat. 64. You don't need more motivation. You need consistency. Motivation fades. Discipline stays. Motivation starts you. Consistency transforms you. So stop chasing feelings. Start building habits. Because habits are what build your future when emotions disappear. No. 65. You must become the person who doesn't quit on themselves. This is the final identity shift. Not someone who tries. Not someone who starts over. But someone who stays. Someone who continues. Someone who finishes. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is not ability. It is persistence. 66. Your new life will not come from thinking. It will come from doing. Let this sink in. Thinking creates ideas, but doing creates results. You already have enough ideas. You already have enough awareness. You already have enough understanding. Now you need execution. Repeated execution. Relentless execution. That is what changes everything. 67. You are the only person standing between you and your life, no one else. Not your past, not your situation, not your environment, only you. And that means something powerful. You are also the solution. 68. The moment you stop negotiating, your life changes. No more a later, no more tomorrow, no more when I feel ready. You either move or you remain the same. And that clarity removes confusion completely. 69. Your future is already waiting on your decision, not your talent. Hanat. Not your background, not your circumstances. Your decision creates direction. Direction creates movement. Movement creates results. 70. This is your final truth. You were not built to stay stuck. You were not built to stay small. You are not built to repeat the same cycle forever. You are built for more, but more requires movement. Not someday, not later, now. Because the life you want is not far away. It is on the other side of what you choose today. So choose wisely, choose wisely, choose discipline, choose growth. Choose yourself. And remember this, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to change your life. No one is coming to do it for you. But you. You already have everything you need to begin. And if you decide today, your life will never be the same again.